welcome. I'm Barbara Gahn-Mueller. I'm the host for peacepodcast.org. You probably have been hearing about this because we are all peacemakers. And how do you become a peacemaker? You listen to some of these podcasts that allow you to bring peace into your own home, to peace in your family. And the reason we're doing this is because we want peace that leads us to happiness, health, and of course, better living. Again, I'm Barbara Gahn-Mueller. I hope you are going to enjoy our interview today with Al Jubitz. Al Jubitz is one of my very special people because in 2012, he started the Rotary Action Group for Peace. The Rotary Action Group for Peace. That means that we have in the United States 35,000 clubs that could be devoted to peace. So I don't know, the wisdom, and I'm going to ask Al Jubitz that. What wisdom brought you to bring the Rotary Action Group for Peace, which I was elected to? I'm so honored to be on the board. And there's so much more I'm going to tell you, but let's go right to Al. Al Jubitz, first, I just want to say welcome and thank you for starting the Rotary Action Group for Peace.
Thank you, Barbara. It's a joy to be here with you again and to talk about peace, my personal journey, and hopefully the journey of many others that you will be interviewing. You mentioned in your intro that podcasts are part of people's way to get educated and to learn. And I would add to build their own personal confidence that if they have a inkling of being a peace builder, that they need to build that confidence, go out and do it. That's what happened to me. For many, many years, decades, I was interested in peace. I was scared about the arms race. I was a Rotarian starting in 1977, and that was also by coincidence the year that I joined what became the Beyond War movement, which educated people in their living rooms about the out of control arms race. Very out of control arms race. And so when I retired in 2001, or 3 rather, I wondered, what am I going to do with all this knowledge? You know, I'd had a good basic training in the arms race. I had a lot of value orientation through membership in Rotary. And it took a while, but my foundation started in 2001, and by 2011, we realized we did not have a lot of peace requests for funding, peace project requests for funding from my home state of Oregon. So we gathered everyone we knew, educators, faith leaders, peace activists, and took them to the mountain. No, not the top, but the bottom of the mountain for a weekend. And we discussed what could be done. Out of that became a project of my foundation called the War Prevention Initiative, and the hiring of Dr. Patrick Hiller, who was a peace professional. And then within just months of deciding to do that, I got a phone call from a stranger, a Rotarian from Westport, Connecticut, Dennis Wong. And he had read in the Rotarian magazine about my interest in peace and said, why don't we start a RAG? And I said, what's a RAG? And he said, well, that's a Rotarian Action Group. Oh, okay. I've heard about those. And here I was at a moment in time that I was frustrated that there was not more peace work. We started the War Prevention Initiative. That was good, and that was peace science, what I call peace science, because I needed personally to have confidence. I needed good science guiding me. And when Dennis said, "Why don't we do that?" I said, "Well, okay. I know a Rotary Peace Fellow, Class 1, by the name of Erin Thomas. I'll call her up. She happens to live in my hometown of Portland. I'll call her up and see if she'd like to work on contract to put together an application with Rotary International." Long story short, she did it, and then she ran the Peace Rag for 3.5 years, and then we hired Reem Gunning. So it wasn't my idea, but I jumped on it because.
But it was your idea. You wanted to do something.
It was Dennis Wong's idea.
You know what it is? But I believe, and this is my theory, the coincidences happen when you are ready for them. You were thinking, what could we do now to further the education of the world for peace, to further the thought that peace is possible? And Dennis Wong, in the ethers, in Connecticut, gets this energy. He doesn't know about you or anything, but he sees your name in the rag and he puts the energy into action. This is why I do the Peace Podcast.
That is so well stated, Barbara.
Put your energy into action. Dennis does it all the time. Last night on our Rotary Club of World Peace, and you're looking at one of our honorary members, Al Jubitz. He is an honorary member because he believes peace is possible. He's on a regular Rotary Club in Oregon, but when you believe something's possible, you look for the coincidences and then you move on it.
You jump on it, and that's exactly what happened. And I always want to tip my hat to Dennis for taking that action. What was really cool was that the Action Group for Peace, like other action groups on other topics, provide a home for people interested in this subject. And let me tell you, there are a lot of people interested in this subject, their whole lives interested. There are so many Peace Corps volunteers that are idealistic, go out at a young age and serve their country in the Peace Corps, come back, either join Rotary and then the Action Group, or they find out about the Action Group and then they join Rotary. And we've seen a lot of that. But people are tired of the violence. They're tired of state-sponsored conflict. They're tired of the waste of money going into armaments we cannot use. And they're very, very happy to have the Action Group for Peace as a place to come, to learn, to engage, and to empower. That's what we do. We educate, we engage, and we empower.
You certainly do.
It's been a great thing. It's grown larger than my ever thought it would. And now we're doing chapters around the world where Peace Builder clubs, that's a concept that came out of the Action Group. So it's just growing and growing, and it's a membership-based organization, so we rely on member dues. But it's also gives Rotarians particularly, and if you're not a Rotarian, you can join the Action Group, and you can decide whether you want to be a Rotarian or just work with the Action Group. But what you'll find is people very committed to rejecting violent approaches to resolving conflict in favor of nonviolent approaches. But I was nervous at the beginning. You know, Dennis caught me on a good day, no question. And it just followed our retreat at the mountain. And we knew we had to do something to elevate our peace initiative. So it came at a very, very good time.
You have like a 3-second window when somebody gives you an idea. And in that 3 seconds, you see the future. You actually saw the future. You saw I'm guessing. Did you see the future in those seconds?
No, Dennis saw the future.
All right, Dennis. God bless Dennis Wong. I love Dennis Wong.
Yeah. Dennis looks around corners and over ridges. I just plod along.
Well, you know, visions and dreams have energy. And I always tell on our peacepodcast.org, pay attention to the coincidences in your life. Pay attention to the energy that you feel. Why am I so energized? I have a core of peace. I'm talking to somebody I admire because he also has a core of peace. Peace isn't going to be something that's just going to happen. You must work for it, right, Al?
Yeah, absolutely. And the joy of it is that you don't, you're not alone, for one thing. You can't do it all, but also know there's an army of peace builders out there, and they are tired of 20th century thinking. And so if anyone listening to this podcast is on the fence about whether they want to stake their reputation, their energy, the rest of their lives to building what we call a global peace system, I encourage you to Google the global security system, an alternative to war. It's a 90 or 100-page document that's updated annually. This is the 5th edition I'm looking at. And there is a path forward called what I call global peace system. And it embodies three major things: creating a culture of peace, which you can do in your neighborhood. Plant a peace bowl with others and celebrate it. It's managing conflict without violence. If there's smoke in your neck of the woods, call a timeout and get people together. Rotarians are extremely good at that. Peace builders, Rotarian or not, are very good at that. Say, let's talk this through before someone gets hurt. That's part of the issue. And on an international basis, there's many stories of Rotarians talking to heads of state to say, let's have a conference about this and see if we can avoid conflict, violent conflict. And the third thing is demilitarizing security. Now, our Rotary Club has been very active here in Portland. We've had a lot of protests over the summer, and we are engaged with the police, the political leaders. We are engaged with alternatives to militarized police and over-aggressive reactions to peaceful protests, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the role we play. So we can practice peace right in our own towns. And so I'm busy. Yeah, it gets me up in the morning, keeps me very happy.
Well, you know, that word practice peace is like, if you don't have it in your consciousness that peace is possible, and that everywhere you go, no matter if it's a gas station or your breakfast table with your wife or your spouse or your friend, talk about peace. What have you been thinking about peace? A gratitude journal. Be in gratitude that you're living in the United States if you are, or if you're in a war-torn country, please let us hear from you. We offer so many services through the Rotary Action Group for Peace. And I'm going to change hats a little bit here. I'm going to put on something. I'm putting on a lei.
Oh my gosh.
This Saturday, we are going to have the very first Legacy of Peace Award. And guess who's receiving it? Al Jubitz. I'm putting on these leis because we're celebrating the work that Al has done in a lifetime for peace, starting the Rotary Action Group for Peace. And I want you to know that if you go to Rotary Action Group, RAGRF for Peace.
RAGFP. Rotary Action Group for Peace. Google that and you can get right in.
And you'll get right there. Join us on December 5th to honor Al. I'm going to have Al back on again after he gets the Legacy of Peace Award, because he is a champion for peace. And I want you all to be champions for peace. What's the first step to become a champion for peace, Al?
I think knowing yourself and what you love, which is safety and peacefulness in your environment, wherever you are. And I think there's an element of a rejection of violence. So you've got to everyone has to go through this, every boy particularly. I remember I got beat up on the right in front of Fantasyland when Disneyland just opened. I gave a nonverbal gesture to someone I didn't know, and I paid the price. I was a small kid, and I couldn't fight, and I decided right then and there, fighting is not for me.
Oh, so it's beautiful.
Other people have experiences that they just reject violent approaches to life, and they live it. And so you got to get to that point, and peace starts with me. And then if you want to speak and be an influence to others, you have to build that confidence I talked about, which is done through education. The education is extremely strong. The last 100 years particularly has seen remarkable changes on Earth to reduce state-to-state conflict, even civil wars. And yet countries are still investing in the tools of war, because most of their population doesn't know that there are really positive approaches to resolving conflicts. And so,
well, that's why, Al, I do these peace podcasts. When a person gets on peacepodcast.org, they can view all of the peace people I have interviewed, the authors, scientists, people who believe that peace is possible. And every time I talk to somebody like you, it renews my faith in the word peace, because I have a goal that every child will be safe on planet Earth. When I was 3 years old, I started to work for that. I stood on the picnic table and preach to the neighbors that peace is going to be here. Well, my grandfather actually told me I was going to be a peacemaker, so I started very young. Now, you need to be surrounded by people who believe like that. That's why I started Peace Podcast Community. And now we have a magazine that has just come out. So when you join our community at peacepodcast.org, you'll get the premiere issue featuring some of the most wonderful people like Douglas Roach that just came out with a brand new book, like Emmanuel ETA, working on one film at a time to bring peace. And last but not last, Scylla Elworthy, The Power of Peace, a business plan for peace. These are people who have the way. Don't get lost. Get in the middle of peacemakers. Going to peacepodcast.org, go to the Rotary Action Group for Peace and join us. Become part of the group that believes peace is possible. You'll get reinforced all the time because, as Al said, that's the way it starts, Al, right?
Right. That's absolutely right.
Now, Al has a dream, and I'm going to share that dream, and that is to end all wars by 2030. Al, is that possible?
Yes, it's possible if we educate ourselves and understand there's an alternative to war. Nobody wants the bloodshed, the grief, the lasting generational hatred that comes out of violence at any level. But they're unwilling to give up that option until they realize there's a lifeboat. And the lifeboat, and literally and figuratively, is the alternative systems that have been built, including all the social change that we've witnessed in our lifetimes, from human rights, women's rights, civil rights, the internet shrinking the world. There's so many positive trends that collectively it gives me confidence to say you don't need to prepare for violence. There are too many good people out there that help you get through whatever the issue is. And so you have to get to that point of personal rejection of violence to be authentic, and also educated enough to try to convince others that this is a path worth following.
Boy, are you right. When you said, instead of preparing for war, let's prepare for peace. Now, it starts with your thinking. When Robert, my late husband, was the Assistant Secretary General, and I also wanted to add to your list of good things, the United Nations is now 75 years old. And that 75-year anniversary is also up on peacepodcast.org if you'd like to view it and get to meet Ambassador Chaudhry, who got the Robert Mueller Peace Prize. You know, Al, I could talk to you for the rest of the day because you bring up memories. You bring up memories of all the world, how I want it to be. I want it to be safe for all children. I want it to be a place where we prepare for peace with our thoughts. And when I was saying about Robert, somebody would say, oh, Dr. Mueller, you're so important. I'm so little. And what am I going to do? And he said, what are you thinking right now? He says, I'm thinking the world is a mess. Robert says, I'm not. I'm thinking about the world of peace. I see trees and harmony and animals and people living in harmony and peace. That's why I bought 340 acres in Costa Rica, so we could live in peace. Well, if your thinking is straight, people like Dennis Wong will appear on your phone and a miracle will happen and the rag starts. We have finished the most wonderful, enlightening interview, conference, and conversation. If nothing else, have a conversation about peace. Al, what would you like to finish our conversation with today?
Well, Mother Teresa said something I like to say, and it's peace begins with a smile. You know, so it's hard to see smiles these days with the masks, but you can smile through your eyes as well, and do a little nod. Recognize.
Sometimes I just tell somebody, I say, you know, I have your smile. It's under the mask, and I let them know it's there. Yeah. All right. Without further ado, I am going to thank you for joining us today. It's just been a fabulous interview. I don't call it interview. I call it conversation with Al Jubitz. And I'm wearing the leis because December 5th, he is going to receive the first, what could we call that? Legacy of Peace Award put on by the RAG. Yeah. Legacy of Peace. Al Jubitz, you're just a blessing.
Thank you, Barbara. It's a joy.